What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode with JT, and
The stash, baby. We back again. Another week.
thanks for tuning in. So, we're going to go ahead and jump into the first segment. College football is the agenda of the day. What is your thoughts about week three?
Uh, there's a bunch of crazy close games again. Besides, there's one game that was not close, JT.
Hmm,
That Oregon Colorado game wasn't close at all.
hmm,
Was not. It was kind of what I predicted would happen. I didn't expect them to play them really that well. I didn't know it was gonna be that bad of a beatdown.
hmm.
So that was pretty nuts. I was not.
Yeah.
Nothing really. Nobody really impressed me this week besides one team. That was the only team that impressed. There was only one team that impressed me this week.
Who?
Ohio State.
Yeah.
They beat Notre Dame in a good game. I was actually kind of shocked.
Hmm,
Ohio State might be for real this year.
hmm. Maybe. We'll see. They've got Marvin Harrison Jr., really good receiver. Their defense, their front seven, pretty solid. They don't have the talent as years past, I don't think, but that doesn't necessarily equivalent to wins. So we'll see if this Ohio State team can do well and make the playoffs. But I think Michigan could beat them again this year. If I'm being real.
I'll have to wait and see this season. I'm excited for that game. I think it's gonna be really good.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. So is that pretty much what stood out to you this week?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot this week. I mean, there was no like real upsets that really shocked me, like that really stood
Hmm.
out. Uh, so for me, it's basically stays the same. I didn't really see a whole lot of change. Alabama did beat Ole Miss. I did see that, but in a
Hmm.
close one. So that was kind of
Yeah.
interesting. But besides that, nothing else. I didn't think else really stuck out for me.
I've been telling my friends and everybody, watch out for this team. Underrated. They're in the top 25 now. Undefeated so far. The Missouri Tigers.
Ooh.
They're let's see, they're 4-0. They're ranked 23rd in the nation currently. This team is the most talented team they've had in at least 3 or 4 years. So they're putting the pieces together and they could make a run. I don't think they'll win their division by no means. I mean, you've got Georgia up there, so they're definitely going to take the division title. But this team could win at least 7 games. I feel like
7 games.
this team could put up at least 6 or 7 wins, probably more. I'd say seven, maybe even 8.
Ooh. Pulling out
So
8 wins
hopefully.
this year in a tough SEC.
But yeah, man, that Colorado game really stood out to me as well. So a lot of a lot of Colorado hype, man. The hype train going off the rails. But I mean, in reality, I'm really excited to watch what Coach Dion can do for this program. Um, they're already better than they were last year. Last year they won one singular game. So I mean, they're facing a huge opponent next week again in USC. I don't see it going well, but they're turning around the program, and it's exciting to see that. It's exciting to see the hype around Colorado, other than in Alabama, other than like Oregon, other than Georgia, like the powerhouse teams, USC. Um, so it's cool to see a team like this get this sort of attention. Um, doesn't mean they'll do extremely well this year. They'll probably win 6 games, 7 games, maybe. Their defense is awful. I'll go ahead and say that now. That's a liability. They've got to fix that. They give up 30 plus against Colorado State. You're not going to compete against the big dogs when it comes down to it if you give up 30 plus to Colorado State and barely win in overtime. Their O line is a very big question mark for Shador. Um, he was getting beat around all game versus Oregon, and it was prevalent. So them boys have got to do a better job at protecting their number one quarterback. And a big part, I feel like why Shador didn't do as well is he's missing his number one weapon, Travis Hunter, out because of that hit um, that he sustained on the sideline against Colorado State. But like I said, I like what Coach Dion is doing in Colorado. Um, I like how he's handling the social media and media in general, sticking up for his players. But I don't know, man. We'll see what they're truly made of as the season progresses.
I like it.
Mm. Not a whole lot other than that. The Florida State Clemson game really stood out to me as well. I didn't
Ooh.
think it was gonna be that close. I thought Florida State was gonna wipe the floor.
So like looking at the game plan, they went with a little different game plan for Clemson, which I thought was kind of weird. While you would plan differently than you have been, maybe they were just trying to take catch Clemson off guard.
Mm.
That might have been it, but they pull out the win in overtime with that was a beautiful little touchdown he threw to in overtime. Two back-to-back drives by Jordan Travis, who I'm gonna say probably is gonna be my Heisman winner right now. Like he's looking
Dude,
fantastic.
Jordan Travis is the truth. He's looking legit this year. But I will say for Clemson, Will Shipley was a huge X factor in that game. He was contributing at a high level for Clemson. Seems like the Seminole defense didn't have an answer. And I mean, in general, Florida State, they've looked like a pretty solid team through 4 weeks, but um, in back-to-back weeks, man, they're playing these extremely tight games against teams that they should wipe the floor against. So we'll see. I
We'll
think
see. I'm
I
still
think
thinking, as
they've
of
got
right
a
now,
chance.
I think it's Miami, Florida State are going to be undefeated at week 9 against each other. I'm really almost certain of it.
I mean, Florida State, they have a chance at the playoff this year, but we'll see if they can put it together down the road. Another thing that stood out to me, going back to the Ohio State game, is Notre Dame crumbling towards the end. They should have won that game, man.
They
Sam
should have.
Hartman is the Sam Hartman, the transfer from Wake Forest. From Wake Forest. He's the best quarterback they've had in several years, man. Um, so I feel bad for him because I mean, that's a big game for Notre Dame. And whenever at the end of the year, strength of schedule really matters. And if you have a win versus a top five team in Ohio State, that could put you in the conversation of the playoff at the end of the year. So,
Definitely.
plus, I mean, since South Bend, a lot of historical big time games, you think that you're going into that game, victorious against the Buckeyes. But last second play, they run it up the middle, they get the touchdown, walk out of there, and they beat the Fighting Irish. Um, they also had 10 men on the field on defense. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard about that. I thought that was kind of like I thought it was kind of funny to be personally honest. I was like, wow,
Oh
come
yeah,
on, guys.
got to do better. They'll learn from that and move on. But speaking of moving on, we'll move on to the next topic. Who is your Heisman frontrunner so far after week 4 of college football?
We just talked about it, baby. JT Jordan Travis, the other
Ooh.
JT, is my front runner. I think he is just balling out. I think he looks excellent. I think that he is making a strong case. If they make it to the playoffs, I think that he wins the Heisman. They have to make the
Hmm.
playoffs for him to win the Heisman, but I do think they will. I think they'll do both.
I can see that. That's a good pick. This guy's a little underrated compared to some of the top guys right now. My front runner that I think will win the Heisman right now isn't Caleb Williams, isn't Jordan Travis, Michael Penix Jr., Washington Huskies quarterback.
Really?
Number 8 team in the country. This man, Michael Penix, has yet to have under a game under 300 yards. He had 4 touchdowns this week. I'm pretty sure the week before last he had 5 touchdowns and over 400 yards in the air. He has been balling out and putting the whole entire college football scene on notice. He's a dual threat guy. He was at Indiana for a while, but he transferred to Washington. He is the epitome of a guy that you want to lead your team to the playoffs. So I think that Michael Penix could have a Heisman Trophy year.
We'll have to wait and see. I still think Jordan Travis is ahead of him right now in the front running, but I mean, that's what the great thing is. We still got plenty of weeks to see who comes out on top.
Exactly. So, who do you think is the best college football team currently right now after week 4, going into week 5?
Put me on the spot here, JT. If I had to really guess on who I think is the best college football team right now, that's tough because like there's still you got plenty of teams who's not plenty, but you still got some teams who are undefeated, who are all undefeated, and you're just trying to put them in the category and trying to debate on who they're playing and stuff. As of right now, I think I'm going to have to go with Michigan is the best team
Really
in football. At this moment, I
okay.
think Michigan's the best team in football.
Interesting pick. Why do you select Michigan?
I think they just have the best all around team in football. So, and they're blowing people out mostly. That's another thing. All these other guys are not blowing out these no name schools like Georgia like did last week. I'm just saying, like it's kind of weird that they're not blowing these schools, and then you got Michigan out here just beating everybody. I think TCU beating them last year was a fluke. I'm just saying. So I'm just saying. I
Yeah,
I think Michigan is the best team in football at this moment.
I respect it. Blake Corum is definitely one of the best players in college football, so I think he'll contribute to the big old Michigan team this year up front. Them. Have you seen the linemen for Michigan, man? They look gruesome. They're huge. Um, but my team might surprise you a little bit. A lot of people may say Georgia. My reasoning behind why I'm not choosing Georgia at all, is because they've played down to the level of their competition. South Carolina, week two, they played down to the level of their competition. They pulled away late. But the reasoning why I'm saying this is because they've got a young quarterback that they're relying on their defense too much. I feel like when they play a opponent that's right around their range, they're gonna mess around and lose again. So I feel like personally that's gonna hurt them in the long run and come playoff time. Is they've got an inexperienced quarterback relying on the defense too much, and he's too caught up in the moment, not trying to make a mistake when he should just trust his instincts. So I'm choosing the guy with the seasoned vet at quarterback. He's been there a while. Texas, Quinn Ewers. I'm
Ooh,
going with the Texas Longhorns.
that's
I
a
think
good
they're the
pick.
best, most complete team right now. The defense, they're flying around everywhere. Look what they did to Alabama. So I think they're the most complete team going into week
I
five.
like that. That's a good pick. I think I like the Texas pick. My only the only reason I would probably take Michigan over Texas right now is I don't like we have agreed on this now. Alabama is not nearly as good as we thought they were
Mm-hmm.
coming into the season, and on top of that, Texas played them and didn't beat them by a whole lot. So like that's why I think Michigan's still ahead at the moment. I would like to see that game though. Texas versus Michigan would be a very good game.
Oh yeah, for sure. That'd be a very interesting matchup. Who do you think, going on to the next segment, who do you think is the most overrated team currently in college football?
Overrated?
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, 100%. Alabama is the most overrated team in football. It's really weird to hear those words come out of my mouth, not because I'm an
Mm-hmm.
Alabama fan, but for the fact that I've had to endure so much torture from Alabama fans for so long. It's kind of nice to finally have them not trying to shove Alabama down your throat. I'm actually very appreciative for it. So that's me because I'm not a Bama fan at all. So I appreciate it. I think they're the most overrated team in football. If you're still thinking they're the best team in football, you're wrong. Get over it.
All right, so I've actually got two teams that I think are the most overrated in college football. So the first team I've got.
Volunteers.
Oh man. So the first team I've got actually is Washington State. They're currently number 16 after jumping up 5 spots. They're 4-0, but the strength of schedule very questionable. I mean, man, I don't trust them inside the top 20. I think they're ultimately a fluke until they play some real competition. I don't like them being that high. I think they're a little bit overrated. So I don't say a little bit. I should say a lot. I don't. They're not winning their conference. I'm sorry. So they should be a lot lower in my opinion. My other team, it pains me to say it, but the Volunteers of Tennessee, I think are, if not the most overrated, the second most overrated team in college football, behind Washington State. My reasoning behind this is because they're playing down to the level of their competition, and not only that, they're playing extremely sloppy against teams they should beat. Austin P, they were within, I believe, 2 or 3 scores of Tennessee at one point. That's an in-state game. not even it shouldn't even be a game. That's players you have your starters out by halftime.
if not the first quarter.
I wouldn't say that, but at
Well,
least by halftime,
into the
you
first
should be up
quarter.
by four or five touchdowns or more. And just to see, I don't think the Volunteers trust Joe Milton like they did with Hendon Hooker last season, and it's been showing significantly so far. He's not as accurate as Hendon was, and he's got the athletic upside, but he's been missing his targets so far this year. He's hit a few, but when it matters most, the accuracy's not been there for Joe Milton. So we'll see if he can turn the tide against some big time SEC opponents the next few weeks. They've got South Carolina upcoming at home, revenge game. They've got Texas A&M not to be slept on, and 2 or 3 weeks after that, they've got Alabama going to Tuscaloosa. So those are some big time games and big
Very
question
big.
marks for the Volunteers. But we'll go ahead and move on. Everybody, let us know who you think are the most overrated college football team currently going into week 5. So now we will go ahead and move on to the NFL.
Whoop whoop.
Who do you think will win Comeback Player of the Year in the NFL? I'll go ahead and start off with mine. I think that it's already predetermined to be Damar Hamlin just because of the story. So I don't think he deserves it, but I think it's going to be just because of what happened on the field last year versus Cincinnati.
I don't hate the take. I could definitely see that happening. I do think that I'm gonna go with a player who is playing better than him. I don't want to sound biased on this. I want to be fully
Hmm.
transparent on this. I think that if Baker Mayfield continues to play at the level that he is playing at right now, before this is being recorded before the Monday night game, just for the people who are reading. If he
Just to
continues,
be,
yeah,
yeah, just don't kill everybody.
if he continues to play at the level that he's playing at, and throughout the rest of the season, I think it will be Baker Mayfield.
I mean, that's pretty realistical. I mean, he's been having a good season so far. So if the Bucks continue to win and Baker continues to perform at a high level, I mean, I could see it. So
Yeah,
I like that selection. That's not a homer pick at all.
yeah. I just wanted to make sure that I'm not biased on this. I think that he has, especially ever since the Browns let him go, he's been kind of like downhill, and no one's put their trust in him. And
Mm,
him getting his shot now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and playing at a level like he is, comeback player of the year isn't a far stretch for him.
that's very true. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the next topic. Which free agent quarterback should have a job right now currently? Don't have to
Kaepernick.
be a starter. Doesn't have to don't have to be a starter, could be a backup, but which player that's a free agent now do you think deserves to have a job? So realistically, this guy he's been a former starter for a couple teams. I think that Carson Wentz should be in the league right now. At least as a backup, man. He's got the ability to play. I mean, as much as people hate to say it, like who would you rather have? Colt McCoy or Carson Wentz? I mean, who would you rather have? Mike White, Carson Wentz. Who would you rather have?
Mike
Case
White is
Keenum,
him. What do
Case
you
Keenum,
mean?
Carson Wentz. Who would
Mike
you rather
White
have?
is him.
Nick Mullins or Carson Wentz. So I think it comes down to Carson Wentz at this point in his career. If he's accepting to have a quarterback two role, like a backup career, why not bring him in, man? He's more than capable.
Okay, I'm gonna go with. I don't have a pick for this. This is hard.
So you don't think Wentz is deserving to be as at least a backup in the NFL? That's pretty crazy.
Who does he go back up?
I mean, you could think about several teams. Carolina, well, they've got Andy Dalton. I wouldn't go there.
It's a good one. Okay.
Jacksonville, Kansas City. I mean, there's plenty of options that you
So
could back up to go into
why
a system that could
why
benefit
has no one
you.
picked him up then? Because why have these other
Because
backups?
maybe he wants to be a starter and his ego is too high currently.
That could be a possibility, or it could be that he wants too much money. Like they're not willing to pay him this amount of money for a backup position.
Hmm.
I don't.
Apparently, Derek Carr got hurt today,
I saw
ACL
that.
sprain, against the Packers. So Jameis Winston will be playing at least maybe next week for the
Famous
foreseeable future.
Jameis.
Yeah. So we'll see. in New Orleans, they might bring somebody else in if it's a long term injury. AC sprains usually don't last longer than a few weeks, so Carr should be back pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But yeah, very interesting. Nick Foles, excuse me, not Nick Foles, Carson Wentz.
They're the same person, man. This happens all the time. There's people that are
No
just
job, yeah.
irrechangeable.
Mm-hmm.
What I
All
used
right.
to say, who was it? I used to say the same thing about Andre Drummond, and there's another guy just like Andre Drummond. Like, who was it? There was two guys, Andrew Drummond and another guy. I would always get them, I compare them, and they'd be the same person. One was just a little better at offense, and the
Greg
other one was just,
Monroe.
huh?
Greg Monroe.
No, no, no. Andre Drummond and D'Angelo Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan. I
Yeah.
compare them. They're the same person. Just one's a little better at offense, and the other one's a little better at defense. Same guy.
All right. So I've got a little game for you.
All right.
We're gonna play NFL edition. Start, bench, cut.
Ooh.
So there's gonna be three names thrown at you:
All right.
Daniel Jones,
Okay.
Russell Wilson,
Okay.
Baker Mayfield, your boy.
My boy's a little far, a little much. Like he's new to the team. I got to see how he plays for at least another year. Maybe if we even keep him, we don't know yet.
So out of those three, what are you ranking them as?
Right now, if I had to choose who I'm taking off this year's performance alone, I'm taking Baker as my starter.
Ooh, okay, okay.
I'm taking Russ as my backup, and I'm cutting Danny Dimes as of right
Hmm.
now.
Respectable, respectable.
Uh, Danny Dimes, I'm sorry. I know it's not you, man. I still believe in you, but I don't believe in your O line. I'm sorry for that. That you have to deal with that. You may have the worst O line in all of the NFL, or the Bengals do. One of you guys. I don't know why you guys compete for the worst one, but one of you has the worst O line, and I hate it for you because Danny Dimes. I believed in you. I hyped you up all offseason. I told them you deserved that money, and right now you're making me a liar. And I'm trying to be really nice to you,
Okay.
but
Highway robbery.
highway robbery is in fact almost not as bad, still not as bad as Michael Thomas's robbery of the New Orleans Saints. By the way,
Mm.
that dude didn't play for like
I
four
like your
years.
list though. A few years ago, that might have been a different list, but I like it. I like it right now. That's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
pretty solid through 3 weeks. But yeah. So last question or last topic, excuse me,
Okay.
of the day. So I'm gonna be interested of your decision here. Which city would be the best for an expansion or relocation of an NFL team?
So expansion or relocation. So I actually read earlier that the Jags are threatening to move the team if Jacksonville does not pay for their new stadium.
Hmm.
So people want to know where they will go. The place that they're most likely to go is actually London.
What?
That's where they're most
That
likely going to go.
being the first. Wow, that'd be
So
crazy.
what they would end up doing
First
would
overseas team.
be setting them up in different parts. So like the team would have like probably a location in the states they could use for like training and stuff if need be, if they're
Hmm.
going to be for a stretch of time, and then they'll go back for like all their home games in a stretch. Most likely how it would work, which I don't hate. Like I'm fine with that.
Hmm.
But my personal opinion of where we should get one, I think we should add a Canadian team. Every other sport's got Canadian teams. Let's get our own team in Canada.
This is America, son. We
But
ain't no Canadians.
basketball, hockey, come on. Toronto,
Hey, football. What do you think about it? Americano? We ain't no Canadians over here, son.
we're not Brits either, and we're going to put a team there.
No, I get what you're saying. Like the expansion of football is ultimately big. It's good for the sport. The more people you get involved with the sport, it's only going to grow it. So, I like where you're thinking. Um, but for me personally, I think relocation or expansion, um, relocation wise, that's tough. So I've thought about it, and I'm ultimately leaning towards Louisville, Kentucky. And here's why. Kentucky doesn't have an NFL team. They're right in between the South and the Midwest, kind of. They're bracketed in between, those areas. So they're not in the deep South. They're not up north, really. They're not in the Midwest. So I think they would attract a lot of attention because when you think about Kentucky, Kentucky basketball is going downhill. Kentucky football hasn't been good in ages. So I think viewership could be at an all-time high. You could attract a lot of people from that state to that game in Louisville. There's a lot of stuff to do in there. The Kentucky Derby. There's a lot of different stuff revenue-wise that you could, you know, lean upon for um, construction of the stadium. I think it'd be a really cool idea to have a relocation or an expansion team, probably relocation to Louisville, Kentucky. An expansion team, however, that I was thinking about. Imagine this: the deep hills of country road, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia. I think West Virginia would be a great place for a relocation team in the NFL. You've got a bunch of hills, a bunch of hillbillies, that would make the NFL environment something we've never seen before. So I would love to see that. I think that West Virginia could offer a very unique environment. Um, so yeah, I would go with that. Louisville and West Virginia.
Okay, those aren't too bad picks. I would, like I said, I would probably pick like Toronto. I think getting a team in Canada would be really nice, and like it would help expand football more. So that for me, that's what I would think.
Mm,
The or maybe like no, that's probably it. Probably Toronto would be the best place I think for now. Um, I would like to have actually at one point I would like to have an NFL team for every state.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I
Hawaii.
think that'd be really cool. So every state's got their own little
Yeah,
team. It'd be cool.
that'd be a lot of games though.
I mean, we could figure it out because like if you had one team, you can technically have to add like two teams at a time to like fill things out.
They'd have to add 28 more teams though.
Yeah, that's easy. Think about college. Think about college.
Yeah,
There's a
for
lot
sure.
more teams than 50.
They'd have to add like different divisions and all that. That'd be interesting.
Split
But
more.
I don't
Split
know.
it up
I
more.
like it. I like it. More games for the people.
Yeah,
But
exactly. More games for the people.
yeah. But well, that wraps everything up for today's podcast, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and drop a like and a follow if you haven't already. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. And go ahead and follow the TikTok. It's the same handle, Thunder Sports Pod. So it's been JT, been a pleasure, and
The stash, baby. We out. Whoop.